Hello and welcome. It is January the 4th, 2017. Unfortunately, I'm trying to get sick, but I'm trying to fight it off as well. This is ESX. First of all, I just wanted to talk about what was going on with my channel shortly. Ran into some issues and personal security things that I felt were important to address. So therefore, I did not think that I could continue on with that current channel. So on top of that, the current channel name that I have for this channel is going to be a lot easier to link to Earthshift X. Now, what we're going to do is break down everything that's on my mind, everything that's going on, and let's get into this information on the global Earth changes that are happening right now. Now, I couldn't possibly go over everything that's happening, just the key points, because there is so much information to get to. So let's get right into it. So what we've been seeing is this uptick and increase in earthquakes being felt. Here we can see them labeled here with the letter F, and then you'll see the testimonies of these earthquakes as they come in by clicking on the testimonies here. This is what I like about EMS. This is what I like about EMSC-CSEM.org, is you get an analysis of exactly what near surface earthquakes were happening. Once again, all of this data is partially skewed because of the current earthquakes that are, downgraded, which should be higher than what they are. So now, when we look at this earthquake happening in Fiji, we can consider this a 6.0 earthquake because they downgrade about 3 points. Some people have said they downgrade even farther than that. But this was a 5.7 that hit Fiji at a shallow depth of 60 kilometers. And here's an earthquake felt here in Bosnia and Herzegovina, 2.8 in magnitude, very shallow kilometers of 4 kilometers being felt. Offshore El Salvador, 4.9 being felt. 3 testimonies for this earthquake event. We have in eastern Honshu, Japan, we have a 5.3 earthquake at a shallow 60 kilometers in depth with 1 testimony, and this was largely observed. Another earthquake felt was in Coquimbo, Chile, 5.2 in magnitude, another shallow earthquake event. I just want to note that a 5 point anything can do a serious amount of damage. Now, when we're looking at a 3.8 in offshore Valparaiso, Chile, we also have an earthquake felt. We also have an earthquake in Crete, Greece, a 3.7 in magnitude at a shallow 5 kilometers in depth. That earthquake was felt. Vanuatu, 5.6 in magnitude at a shallow 10 kilometers in depth, and that was felt as well. And a 5.5 in the Fiji region at a shallow kilometers in depth. What we're going to be doing is looking at the testimonies in this earthquake event. And this person mentioned that this seems stronger than what it was reported. No material damage is reported to the persons at this moment, and then no damages at all. So different people feel different things depending on where the epicenter of where earthquake was felt. You can see the 66 kilometers north of the epicenter. So this was closest to the epicenter that the person felt that the earthquake was stronger, and that's going to be usually the case. Now, when we talk about the increase in earthquake activity, if we look at the number of earthquakes that have taken place in 1988 for the entire span of the year, starting from January the 1st to December the 31st, we can see there's a total of 37,818 earthquakes. Okay, so this is an exponential increase in comparison to earlier times in the 80s. We do have an increase in earthquake weapons. We do have an increase in HARP weapons. There's an increase in a lot of things. There's also an increase in monitors. But still, that's a very, very significant gap in between the earthquakes that are happening now and in recent times, and the earthquakes that were happening in the 80s. And that's fact. Now, what is causing that? Well, some people believe that a magnetic celestial body approaching the inner solar system would be the thing that would cause something like that, due to the magnetic pull of the planet now, of this rogue planet. So if we look at the wild weather that is happening right now, we have record drought in Bolivia. It drains lakes and threatens hospital. Now, I can tell you guys, in my current area, we've also had a warmer than normal winter, very hotter than normal, and as well as drought. Once again, this is the planet heating up. And what would cause the ocean temperatures to rise? Heating of the core. Okay, this is what we talk about when we look at the map for the increase in humidity and the increase in extreme weather events, was that hot and cold air mixing. We've also seen devastating droughts in places like California and other areas in the South. Malaysia floods forced 23,000 people to flee homes. Flood victims using a lorry to travel Kampung Bekuk in the northeastern Malaysian state of Terengganu. So this is, once again, epic flooding is what we've been seeing over and over and over again, because of the increase in ocean temperatures. We look at the current volcanic activity. We have major explosions continuing at the Alaska Bogoslov volcano. Interesting thing about this, another, once again, explosion took place, as well as a strong seismic signal from the volcano at 21:18 local time. Interestingly enough, I find it interesting that this news report came in mentioning that the ash plume reached 33,000 feet. And of course, in numerology, you don't use the zeros. That would come to the number 33, which is the number for the Scottish rite of Freemasonry, to be more specific. And once again, you have to look at where the source of the news is coming from. It's coming from a source of the USGS, which was founded on March 3rd. March 3rd is the same as looking at the number 33. March is the third month, founded on the third day. Now, that would mean that some of the data that we get from the USGS is most likely truth mixed with lies. Okay, because that's exactly what the USGS has had a history of doing, is covering things up. And if a group of people have a history of covering things up, then, and lying to the people, well, then automatically any source affiliated with it may also have some type of cover up or activity that they're doing. Now when you look up the Alaska Volcano Observatory, it's a fact that it's a joint program of the United States Geological Survey. So when you type in the name Alaska Volcano Observatory, you get the number 89. Okay, the number 89 shows up as the totals for the consonants and vowels. This is what, when you're looking at the consonants and the vowels in numerology, you're understanding that this is giving us what the Alaska Volcano Observatory was put here for. Okay, this, when you're looking up people in numerology, you learn what their soul was sent here to do. And I believe it's your consonants that give you, I think it's your vowels that give you your soul's desire. Okay, and then consonants is what you see yourself doing in your dreams, in your dream states. But anyways, Alaska Volcano Observatory shares the same numerology as government cover-up. And I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to show you. '89. Okay, government cover-up, 89. So once again, breaking down the number 89, we have 8, which is also representative of the glasses. When you turn them sideways, you turn the glasses, or you turn the 8 sideways, you see the glasses. Okay. This is your sight. 9 is the previous knowledge. So you are viewing the previous knowledge from 1, the individuals who are presenting knowledge, to 7, from the individuals presenting this knowledge are operating on the lower spiritual planes, which is representative of the 8, which is the 8 is the higher plane. You have the higher plane, and then you have the lower plane. Notice the curves in the number 8, which represents vast changes. And that's what we see a lot of times with the data coming from the USGS and whatnot. You'll see them post a 7.4 earthquake and downgrade it to a 6.8. Once again, vast changes. 8 also represents H, the ladder. And when you climb the corporate ladder, you start below. And the people telling you to climb the corporate ladder are above. This is the as above, so below principle brought into fruition. If you understand numerology, this is not coincidence. Now, once again, there's negative and positive vibration. Okay, there's negative and positive vibration, and I'll have to talk about that more later. Now, we're getting into meteors. We do have a total of 24 reports so far out of several different states, and 7 reports from other countries. And we still have seen a pretty good increase in meteors. Now, there's a number of things I think at play with the meteors. I believe it's a mixture of an increase of people actually looking up at the skies, which this increase in knowledge heading into this Aquarian age is causing more people to want to look up into the skies and understand the stars and the ancient knowledge of why did the ancients use the stars. Why was it so important? Okay, why were the pyramids lined up with the stars? Why? Another big article came out yesterday. Will the world end in October? Conspiracy theorists claim mysterious planet Nibiru will smash into Earth. And this is David Mean. Now, I noticed with these articles, they say Nibiru is going to smash into Earth, but they never talk about it actually passing by, making a closest approach, and then shifting things around. But they always say it's going to smash into Earth, which is complete disinformation created on the internet. Now, when we talk about this subject of Planet X Nibiru, we got to understand that there's disinformation, and then there's factual information. Facts. Carlos Munoz Parada mentioned that this planet was on a long elliptical orbit. He named it Hercolobus because it had the speed of a comet and the mass of a planet. And so this particular fact is letting us know that an astronomer with credentials and the ability to predict things was giving us knowledge about what he felt would make its appearance once again. Now, with these news articles, they're there to kind of make people feel bad for even believing it as a possibility, when of course there's billions of these brown dwarfs. See, you have to always figure out who is the person behind doing a lot of these videos, and then what credibility or what knowledge do they really have. Because there's people who do videos and they'll say anything is Nibiru Planet X that's near the sun, but they don't work with facts. See, then you have people who talk crap about people who believe in Planet X, but they post no evidence, they have no videos, and they completely make a mockery out of themselves because they're not even looking into the stars like Soul Evolution gave us some images to and some references to where we can look for G1.9 or the Nemesis system. Very good evidence. And so the interesting thing about this article is that it is a pretty popular website, and I do find it interesting that they are even talking about Nibiru in a way that you can kind of think of it as an announcement. See, a lot of these sites, though, they don't get into why people still believe that it's out there and approaching. But once again, when we're talking about any news source that you're reading from, it's good to get an idea of what Daily Mail's track record has been. Who's running this site? Who gives the okay? This information is important because if you can draw a connection to people who could be Freemasons that are in control over these news articles, it will give you insight on what you're actually reading. See, the war that's taking place right now is an information war. This is a war of people, regular day people, who want the truth, and then there's people who want to maintain the current construction that is designed for your mental, your higher self being deconstructed. And so the war is happening on the internet. That is where the battle is happening. That's why people catch hell for trying to talk about subjects like Planet X. And if you're a melanated individual, obviously a deeply melanated individual, obviously you are the target, you are the primary target of the system, because awakening you away from the material things of this society and what the celebrity's wearing and everything else, versus just enjoying yourself, who you are, learning about who you are, learning about your history, and tapping into your higher self. They have you focus on the material realm, okay, and feeding you a bunch of lies and propaganda in the news media. This is why it's hard for me to believe in every single earth monitor that is out there, because there is so much lies and deception out here. And anybody who comes out talking against it, speaking truth, well, then that person is attacked and feels threatened. Here's another article talking about, will Planet X crash into the Earth? Once again, who said the Planet X was going to crash into the Earth? Who's making that claim? See, this wording is used to make people who believe that something could happen look crazy. Okay, and we're talking about why we believe something could happen. It's mainly because there's a lot happening. Okay, and you can see the sky is like bloodshot red 20 minutes after the sun goes down. It's like, that's weird. The sky is supposed to be getting darker, but it just got brighter and it's red. And it's a weird looking red. Okay, and we know all the changes that are going on. And we know that not only the Bible, but other texts speak of massive cataclysms happening, things shifting out of place and everything else. We know that when earthquake events happen, land masses can shift quickly. It's not a slow process. There's no Pangea going on here. Okay, this is a very rapid, fast event. When we get into the numerology behind Nibiru Shock 2012, the numerology and truth in numbers, Pythagorean numerology is not only accurate, but it's a very, very old practice. Okay, and a lot of what you'll find is not coincidence. Okay, and once again, when we talk about numerology, there's positive and negative vibration to every bit of numerology. Okay, so when people say, oh, numerology is satanic, you can't use that. Why would you use it every single day if it was satanic? Okay, it depends. There's a positive and negative vibration to the universe. Okay, and when you understand that, it'll allow you to open up your pineal gland, drink that alkaline water, get that sunlight, and it would allow you to see that when people use numerology, it can actually give you insight. So let's get into this knowledge. When we look at Nibiru, Nibiru equals 37. Magnetic reversal equals 73. The reflection of 37 equals earthquake weapon, which is 73. So when we talk about Nibiru, we're talking about something that could be linked to earthquake weapons, and that is already admitted. 37 equals 41. Tesla weapon equals 41. We know that the government has Tesla's technology. Now, at this point, Tesla's been gone for a while. So at this point, what do they have at this moment? That's the question. Important Nibiru etymology. Nib in the 1580s meant beak or bill of a bird, meaning point of a pin or quill, first recorded in the 1610s. According to Wikipedia, Nibiru is a term in Babylonian astronomy for the equinox. What is the equinox? The time when the sun crosses the plane of Earth's equator. So cross is a key word because the CAD translation of Nibiru wasn't found. Instead, Neberu was found, which means place of crossing or crossing fee. So there was a higher probability chance that Nibiru was a crossing point between the Earth's equator and the ecliptic plane, the point in which the planet of the crossing was crossing the Earth's equator along the ecliptic plane. Okay, now everyone's going to have different views in terms of what Nibiru is, but the evidence is showing, okay, the scientific evidence as well as the geological evidence, and you can't just look at numbers. You have to also look at the signs and symbols. And what the Earth's geological footprint is showing is a periodic shift in the planet's crust. So when we break down what has happened is all of these people that get on the internet and they are showing you dates specific to something happening, and nothing happens, and people have doubts that anything could happen. And I believe this is part of the deception. Keep people in a state of fear. I've captured things in the skies, so has other people, so we just have to be on the lookout and be mentally, prepared on all levels. Now, the day that Nibiru Shock 2012 posted this video was on February 20th, which is a Jewish holiday. Okay, and we talk about how the Zionist Jews run America. Okay, as well as other. So this article is just one of my premier articles that I wrote on a little bit on Freemasonry and numerology, and it's really a pretty popular article, and you can check it out following my website link. There's a lot going on at this moment. Definitely stay tuned for more information. Now, to conclude, I just want to say once again, all we can do is just keep an eye out on things and continue to follow channels, continue to network with like-minded individuals that want to make it through any kind of difficult times that we may face.